Hello again everyone, this is another Octogen and CrossFit Sydney training video. This time we're looking at different progressions for the glute ham raise. So what we're going to look at today is a series of progressions to help you work up to doing full glute ham raises, because a lot of the time most people can't do this exercise to start with. So what I've got here is Andrew doing some back extension / hip extension isometrics on a glute ham raise, just to start to build the endurance through the spinal erectors, the glutes and the hamstrings. Then moving on here to some back extension and hip extension, and Andrew's just demonstrating here the difference between back extension, which is the different segments of the back in the vertebrae through to the neck extending, versus what most people call back extension like this, which is actually hip extension. So you see here that the back is mostly in a fixed position. The spinal erectors are working isometrically, and the glutes and to some degree the hamstrings are working to extend the hip and straighten the body. And Andrew's just going back to that back extension to show the contrast. So if you want to do glute ham raise, you've got to work on a bit of both of those to build up the required strength. Okay, now we're into back and hip extension with resistance. This is where most people will start to make the transition to glute ham raise training. In this case, we're using a light stretch band just looped around the bottom of the glute ham raise. And the nice thing about the stretch band is you can control obviously the length and how far it stretches to get a different resistance. Moving on here to some weight. So Andrew's just grabbed a light kettlebell, and you'll see again back remains mostly fixed. He's using his glutes, his hamstrings to extend the hip and bring the body parallel with the ground. And then our final method of adding resistance is just to put a weight plate, in this case just a 10 kilo Olympic bumper across the back. And if you want to take this one step further, if you get very, very strong, you can then move to a barbell across the shoulders. And because it's all the way up on the shoulders, the center of the gravity of the barbell is further away from the hips, makes it a little more difficult. And of course, you can add a lot more load. So now going on to proper glute hamstring raise, you'll see that Andrew's knees are actually hanging off the pad. He's leaning slightly forward into the pad. And what that does is it puts the pivot point for the glute ham raise about midway up his thighs, and that makes it a little easier. So if you're just starting out with glute ham raise, you may want to move the foot carriage a little further away from the hip pad and allow the pivot point to move further up your thighs. So the closer the pivot point is to the hips, the easier it is. Then once you've mastered that, you can move the foot carriage a little closer, and in this case you see Andrew's knees are now pressing into the pad. And what we've done here is we've just grabbed a spotter so that as Andrew lays out, most of the load is taken by his glutes and hamstrings, but then the spotter is able to limit the range of motion to a point where Andrew can lay out. And this is really important for when you start doing glute hamstring raises properly, because a lot of people will lack the confidence to just sort of throw themselves further forward. And you see here Andrew is working pretty hard to control the movement. Andrew's pretty good at this stuff, but he just finished a massive workout when we shot this video, and I have a feeling he was pretty tired. And the good news is once you've worked on this sort of manual hamstring curl, you can put that together with the back extension, hip extension and hamstring curl to get the full glute ham raise. So there's another video that we put up a little bit earlier that's got some different glute ham variations for more advanced trainees.